good friend of mine. And what I've seen in my time as a police officer, when I was, even before I was a police officer, I was a young man who didn't have a father. I worked really hard. I saw poverty myself. I worked up from nothing to be able to represent the Liberal Party in Northeast Calgary. But what I've seen around, particularly my black friends in the black community, is they have lost some of what is back in the old country. I worked for a year in the Caribbean, and I saw communities come together and help each other. I saw if there was a kid on the road, everyone would look after. They'd know his name. They'd know my name. They'd say, "Hey, Mr. Cam, Mr. Cam." And it was really, everyone knew everyone, and everyone looked after. And if there was an issue, everyone came forward. And I'm not seeing that here in Calgary with the black community. I'm not seeing that the black brothers and sisters are supporting each other the way it needs to be done in this tough, tough big city. And then I look and before I even got into politics, I looked at one of my heroes in life, Barack Obama. And I looked and saw, what did Barack Obama do before he ever entered politics? Does anybody know what he did? Community worker. That's my background. I'm a community worker, community builder. So I thought, that's why I thought maybe I was ready for politics. It looks like I wasn't. But he was a community worker, community builder. And so I want you not to think of politics as the big P politics, as the liberals and things like that right now. I want you to think as the politics of your community. Getting involved in your community. Getting involved like Bukola and other people. And Pierre and all the people here that are trying to build community and not separating. What I find is happening with a lot of our immigrant communities is everyone is, oh, I don't like what she's doing, so I'm going to open up a new shop. I don't like what he's doing, I'm going to open up, me and my 5 friends, we're going to open up a new association. And what happens when we do that is we are dividing our communities instead of bringing them together. We now have more nonprofits in this city, in this province, than we need. Than we can sustain. Than there are funding for in provincial or federal coffers. There are funding for from corporations. There's not enough money for all these little well-meaning, we'll say mom and pop operations to be out there. But we have to start thinking, how do we collectively bring together? How do we get our Barack Obamas here, the Michelle Obamas here in Calgary? And start saying, let's work together. And it's not just about working with the black community, but it's about joining associations. It's joining the soccer association. It's joining the local Martindale or the Marlborough Park Association. It's being part. And that's how I started actually in my world of being involved in politics. Actually, it was starting, I was a soccer coach. I was a scout volunteer. I was a member and then a president of a multicultural association, and then of a literacy association. So I learned about democracy hands-on, not through a book. It was by getting in the trenches. It was by feeling with community, helping community, and being involved with community. So that's what we need, brothers and sisters, is for your involvement at every level of society. It's called full participation. It's taken off those chains of slavery. Slavery is gone. As we learned here today, we've got great forefathers, men and women in the black community who have paved the way, who have gotten rid of discrimination. The Alberta Human Rights Act is 40 years old, and it is in full force, and it is there for you. We've got the Charter. It's 30 years old, the Charter. It's there to protect your rights no matter your race, religion, creed. It's there. We've got well-meaning people old, young, white, black, that are there fighting for your rights and your responsibilities. It is for you to take the torch and say, I'm going to get involved. It is for you to sign up and volunteer at the associations. It's for you to, one of the things that's available, that I'm going to pitch just a little bit, is there's a liberal leadership going on right now. And Canadian leadership. And they've got a new thing on for democracy, that you don't have to be a member, you just have to be a supporter. So if anybody wants, I'll leave a sheet here. You fill it out. Anyone over the age of 14, doesn't have to be a Canadian citizen, can now be involved in democracy, very much like a US-style primary where everyone can vote for whatever party primary. That's what the Federal Liberal Party is asking and letting people do. Get involved. Let your vote count. So it is empowering yourself wherever you can to stand up. So back to me and getting in politics. What happened was, people came to me and said, Cam, you should get in politics. I said, no, I'm too busy. I'm busy with community, I'm busy with this. Next election, Cam, help us out, help us out. I said, I'll help you out in the background. So I helped out and I did what I could. And then, I didn't like what was happening with our government, with the ruling party, and I said, no, okay, I'm going to stand up. So I stood up and I put my name forward. That's what we need, each one of you, is sometimes just to stand up for your beliefs. Stand up for your brothers and sisters. Help them through the system. Stand up when you see what's right and wrong. You know what the number one group that's discriminated in our country is when it comes to the workforce? Anybody have any ideas? Whether it's immigrants? It's the natives, yes. The natives are, yes. So, but the second one that we find in the workforce, the number one, and this was done by a Labour Congress of Canada, they did research. They did basically white Canadians, Canadians of color, and immigrant Canadians. Who do you think had the lowest income in the working force? No, the colored Canadians had the lowest. So we know there's still work to be done, and we still need those born here to stand up for your rights. We still need groups like this to be able to talk about this stuff, because it's important stuff to talk about. If you don't talk about it and let it go, then you're going to have what my Aboriginal brothers and sisters are having, is they have normalized that racist discrimination. They're just starting to get idle less. Right? They're standing up and saying, we're not idle anymore. But we need that from all communities. We need you, if you have a problem, to go to your MPs. We need you to go as a group, though. That's another reason I get involved in politics. Because I'll tell you right now, when I go and I sit in the back rooms of when organizations are saying, okay, how are we going to, what ethnic groups are we going to target? Guess who gets targeted? The squeaky wheel gets targeted. You know what that means? So the bigger groups, or the groups that are active. Somebody said it here. Somebody said, well, the Chinese get so much energy here. But you know what? The Chinese community is active in politics. They go and they meet with their politicians. They go and they meet with the leaders in the group home and say, listen, you're not looking after our needs or something. It's up to again, like the Obamas, when they were younger. If there's something you don't like, you have to get a group together and go and see a minister or go and see an alderman and say, listen, we don't, because power is important. And don't mistake that. That's one of the reasons that I thought I'd try to get into that upper echelon, was because I think we still need to be able to at least scare who's ever in power to keep things online. And the other thing is, as somebody said here, is I was talking to someone beforehand, and they said, you know what, I'm finding I'm not getting where I need to go. I have an education, I speak English, I have everything, but I'm not getting where I want to go. I'm not getting my full potential. And by getting involved in the community, you will reach your full potential. Because you're going to network with people. When you're volunteering at a political party or something, or you're volunteering at a school, like people are doing here. If you're volunteering, you're rubbing shoulders, and you're networking. And my mantra is your network is your net worth. If you don't have a network that you can call out to when you want a job, if you don't have a network when you can call out when you're in need, if you don't have a network that you can call out when your community's hurting, then you're alone. And you're not going to get that power. And I see we have lots of people here. We have this network right here of this 40 people. And we agreed from here on forward to work together, to work on issues. Today we'll work on this issue. Tomorrow we'll work on this issue. Then we get stuff done. That's what I did in policing. Was a lot of times I work on issues. And my best team I ever worked on was where we had a team of 8 officers. And each 2 officers had an issue. But then they said, okay, let's work on my issue today. And so we work on a drug file. And all 8 of us would all work on that drug case. The next one said, well, I got break and enter case. And we would all work on that break and, like 8 of us. And there's power in numbers. And so my challenge to you is be powerful. Let your voice be heard through the internal groups, internal politics of each other. If you can do that, and I know you can, because we've seen it. We've seen the Arab Spring, where people have risen up and said, our voice needs to be heard.
That's how our bell goes. It's the school bell. Sorry, sweetie.
We've seen the I Don't Know War, where people have stood up. We've seen it happen. But for the benefit of, again, it's not only the benefit of you and what you're doing now, it's for the benefit of your kids and their kids. But as I was at a citizenship ceremony last week, and I just want to reiterate one point that was said by Mayor Nenshi. He said, do not just volunteer and get involved. Don't just volunteer and get involved and work hard for your kids. Because your dreams, your wishes, your vision matters too. And you know what? Canada's matters. So you matter to Canada and Canada matters to you. So I just pray and hope that we can all work together to make this society better. So thank you. Does anybody want to throw a dice at me?
Okay, here we go.
Beautiful. Number 5. Am I supposed to do something with that?
It's odd number.
Do you have any concerns? Do you have any concerns? Questions?
I did. Oh, I don't have a concern. Oh, sorry. I just would like to know, as Canadians, all of us inclusive, regardless of race, nationality, that we work together as a people. Like you said, community. It doesn't mean your own race and you stick with that. You know, it means as a community, everyone in your community to work together. So I didn't have a question. That was my concern.
No, and for sure. I mean, and I agree with that 100%. I think there are, at the same point, I think we have to work together as a community, as general Calgarians or general people that live in your community. But at times there are issues that are ethnic specific, that are religion specific, that your religious group gets together and you say, you know what, we're going to work together as that group. And it's also those groups stepping outside of their boundaries. So the Christians, and we're seeing a lot of that. Multi-faith groups working with each other and sharing each other. So it is a matter of working and volunteering wherever you are most comfortable, and as well as moving the bar forward. And any other questions or concerns? Ideas? Any comments about engagement?
Did you say the grace? Did you thank God for the food? Not yet. Not today you didn't.
You know, you mentioned about community. And community is important. But the sister mentioned earlier about somebody named Jesus Christ, who died for your sins and mine. Okay? You know, it's one thing to be together as a community, but we need to remember individually that we're precious in God's sight. We're precious in the sight of the Holy Creator. And the Holy Messiah died for each one of us. And He loves us so much that if it was just one of us here, from the beginning of Adam's race till the end of the world, if there's just been one here, the Holy Messiah, and would have accepted Him as His Savior, or accepted Jesus as their Savior, He would have come and died for them individually, even if nobody else accepted Him. So we're all precious in God's sight, and we're all God's children.
Praise God.
And even though man looks on the outside, the Holy Messiah looks on the inside. And so we have an opportunity day by day as to how we're going to seek the Holy Creator and how we're going to have our characters changed. And that's an individual choice. And I'm glad that we have the Bill of Rights and these things within Canada, these freedoms that are there, but the nucleus of each one of these freedoms is choice. And we have choices that we can make, and nobody else can make those choices for us.
Thank you. And I agree. I think if it wasn't for my faith in a higher being, I wouldn't be here right now. Because again, as Jesus or Muhammad, as many of the great religious leaders, as they fought for freedoms, as they also spiritually gave to their community. I mean, we all know Jesus did that, Muhammad did that. My friends in the Sikh community, the leaders there, or their prophets, every one of them has volunteered to their communities. And that's always given me power. When I go and pray with them at the synagogues, at the mosques, at the churches, that gives me power to keep on wanting to give back to the communities, because all of the great religions tell us that we are who we are, and we are here for a reason to make a difference. So I just challenge you to make a difference, not only to your own family, to your own brothers and sisters, but the general community in itself. So thank you very much.
To contest. They are so calm. Who is ready to contest? We have voters in the house. Hey, that's my baby girl. She's ready to contest. So, she's ready to be a contestant on the tablets of the labor of God. That's the only way our voice can be heard. When we have people who are contesting, it's like we are still not ready. We need to give it a thought. That's why Cam has been here to talk to us. And right now, we want to play the game again. Who is going to... Who wants to catch? Who wants to catch? No volunteers. Hey, we are always winners.
Oh, go ahead,
Awesome.
go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Please come, Brian. Come on. So they are ready to catch. If you throw, make sure you make it very hard so they don't find it easy to catch. So you can get a number that gives you good questioning or consent.
Just stay away from my money makers. Okay, so I don't need this, right? We're catching, right? Okay. Who's got it?
Who is throwing it?
All right, yes. I can catch. 3,
here in Canada for them to get a really good education, and they are not, using it. And that is my big concern, because I have noticed a lot of young black people here, and they just seem to be wayward. Their mind and their intention and their own focus is on different things, not realizing that they have this huge opportunity to get a really good education. And I think that having Obama being a president of America, I think the young generation should look to him as an example and want to do something with their life. So that is my concern.
Thank you very much. Actually, I'd like to say something. I understand we're eating and there's people in line. And that was a perfect concern for the young youth here. And it's unfortunate that, a lot of people are just not even listening, because that is something that everybody should have heard just now. And being a youth facilitator, that's exactly the concern that I try to address every single day. And today, I brought 5 of my program participants to attend this. So I wish people would take a second and really listen to each other and really listen to what, especially the elders who are here, are saying.
It's my turn. But do I need this? Probably not. Okay, go ahead. Throw something at me. Anybody else? Now, I haven't looked at what it is. So now am I supposed to look at the bottom, or the top, or the side to the right, or the side to the left, or in front of me or behind me, because there's 6 sides. Who wants the top? Who wants the bottom? Who wants to the right? Who wants to the left? Who wants to the front? Who wants the back? I don't know, the right was pretty close. Let's do the right over and the top over. Who wants the right? Who wants the right? And who wants the top? Okay, it looks like the top wins. All right. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Number 1. What's number 1 supposed to be?
Concern.
Is number 1 a concern because it's odd? Okay. Before we get into a concern, I got to tell you a little story. Okay? There was a fella years ago, he was in Nazi Germany. His name was Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Now, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was actually a clergyman. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer was writing in his memoirs while he was in jail. And what he expressed was, I saw certain people's rights being taken away from them, and it didn't affect me, so I didn't say anything. And yet, I saw people's rights being taken away from them, and it didn't affect me, so I didn't say anything. And yet, I saw people's rights being taken away from them, and it didn't affect me, so I didn't say anything. And then it came to pass that my rights were being taken away from me. And I stood up to say something, but there was nobody left to listen. Is that what you want to have happen with our society? People fought for these freedoms, and people come to the United States of America and to Canada, risking life and limb, leaving whatever they had behind them, whatever wealth or position they had, and came to the New World so that they could have freedom to do these certain things. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of peaceful assembly. Do you realize that in some places of the world, you couldn't even have this meeting. They would haul you off to jail. There's some people that may be from part of those worlds that have seen such things happen. We need to protect our freedoms, whether or not they are from our nationality or not. And we need to exercise these freedoms, whether or not they're from our nationality or not. I exercise my freedoms every day, and I let people know that I'm protecting my freedom of speech. And so I encourage us all to do so. So now, somebody's got a concern. No concern? Because it doesn't concern me? What was I just talking about?
That's right.
Okay? No concern because it doesn't concern me. Because it's not coming across my doorstep yet. And I use the word yet because those who don't want you to have these freedoms and those who do not want me to have these freedoms are very happy to take away this person's freedom. Oh, well, you're not affected of it. And she's crying out, but there's nobody listening. And then, all of a sudden, my brother's freedom here is taken away. And it's not affecting nobody else. It's not affecting my community. It's not affecting my people. So we'll just push you aside. I don't need you to push me. Okay? All right? So the thing is, we need to watch, and we need to pray, and we need to ask God for help and for His understanding. Okay? Because there's freedoms that years ago God had me stand up for, and God had me to sit down and write a letter to a fellow by the name of, you might have heard of him, Bill Clinton. And God had me write many letters to Bill Clinton, but then He also had me to write to George W. Bush. And He even had me to write letters to Barack Obama. I've even met Mr. Barack Obama. I have shook his hand, and I've hugged Mr. Barack Obama. Okay? But I'm sharing with you, we got to stand up for our freedoms. You got a concern.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you for that.
I can't stand alone. Okay? Thank you.
Brian here is a friend of the blacks. He has always believed that if we are united, we can move mountains. And that's just why we have called one another tonight, to talk about who we are and how we can move mountains. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. But before I go, I got to share with you, there's a good friend of mine, and I've had many good friends of mine, that looked on me kindly when I was a child. And they were not of my race. And they were black. Okay? But it can have different colors too. Okay? But you see, that's why we need to work together, because we're all precious in God's sight.
I'm catching from someone else.
So he's talking about concerns.
Okay, I have a very, very strong accent. First of all, when you talk to Pierre French, you will feel who's that Pierre and French. Myself, Pierre Boulot. I am part of your, I have a long story. I will tell you how I become very active, an activist in Canada. I started since Quebec before I moved to Alberta. When I came here, no English. I have no word in English, what to do, where to speak, how to speak, and television. I'm going to tell you this after all. How I became very active in Quebec. In 1995, at that time we was called visible minority. Now the names are changing. They call us visible minority.
And most immigrants are here are job stealers. We are here to steal the jobs. Oh, okay. Thank you. And my name is Pierre, by the way, and I'm from Chad. I was in Nigeria when my country went into the war, and then I lived in Nigeria for 6 months before immigrating to Canada as a permanent resident. My friends, ladies and gentlemen, in 1995, it was a big test for the immigrants. At that time, they want to separate from Canada. They don't have anything with the English or whatever, they want to have their own country. And the movement is still there. Even though the movement is still not strong, but the movement is still there. And today, some of their members are going to the government, actually from the government of today. We was called to make a decision on the integrity of this country, Canada. The country we love it. The immigrant was completely desperate. The Italian, the Haitian was which represented the majority of the blacks in Montreal. Was desperate. Sometimes we get involved with the police. They try also what desperate was because the country is going. There was a tension. So we get together and say, we cannot do that. This is the country we give us the visa to here. We cannot leave this country and to be split up. We don't know what Alberta is going to be. That was also Alberta had his own movement at that time. So the tension was so high, we get jumped in. Because this is what we want to do. We're going to gather our community. We will see what the result of the vote will come out. We have meeting after ministers after ministers. Then we get together. I will call the Haitian. At that time, my girlfriend, which is the girlfriend of Quebec, the white girl, runs a building, it's sponsor, a building with a 12th floor. And the whole business was for me to have my community activities. I brought in more than 20 Haitians, and then we have a couple from Africa. Then we get together and spread the word, go after the Italian, and then the so-called visible minority, the English themselves. They are not welcome in Montreal because their language, they don't like them to speak in their commercial advertisement in the commercial building, like the McDonald's was vandalized. Why they put the have to translate it in French? The tension was so high. So we get together. That time, when I was getting my community together, I did not know I was suspected by the police. Because for a black man saying that he wants to be an activist in Canada, talking about another teacher, for them to down it. There was a ticket we had drug dealers. At any time we have our meeting every weekend, the police came with the street bag and they popped behind the building. And I didn't notice that until one day, the guys from Montreal and in Quebec City, they came from Montreal to meet with police how we can plan it. Then we took all out. By the time they took off, I walked them out. By coming in just a time, I faced the police officers, went in searching the building. But the building had so many units. So they don't know at that time where I was living. And then after they told me, what you guys doing here since almost 3 months now. There's a lot of gathering going here. But at that time, there's a health problem going on too. Maybe they confused us with the health. Nobody knows. They said they want to know if we are selling the drugs. They said, no, we are talking politics here. They said, no. You are not this country, what you know about Canada before anybody to talk about politics. We said yes, because the country is going to separate. We are building our team from Montreal, Quebec City, so that we're making sure that we get our voters out to say no for the referendum of Quebec. And this is the time I learned more about it. And at the end, what turns up, the Italian turns in, the blacks turns in, whoever, the Filipino and all, the referendum collapsed. That's the time I said, this is my contribution for the country we work on it. We stood up and we made this country and we built the unity of this country. And when I came in Alberta, my English was very limited. I said, I always was engaged in my community. After I become to medical, I will help my community. Lately, in the election, provincial election, I will come across last year, exactly, precisely the black spot. After the civic election, I walked in to the city of Calgary. I told them my community doesn't have a center. We are desperate. We don't know where to get together. If there's a chance that we can have a community center for the black themselves. I put in the proposal and the proposals still are going on, and lately I just hear some news that they're still working on it. And the same that was last year, February 22nd, and I know somebody from the city of Calgary is here. I get the data, yes, I do get it, and they're still working on it. We don't know what is going to happen. Are we going to get that school? It's a school, a big school. We propose that we want that school. Apparently, they gave me the number, 6 million. I have investors with me, they said that's not the issue. Make a chance for that, we will make that happen for the black school. I don't stop there. On March, I will walk down to Alberta legislation. I will come across to Alison. At that time, she was running for the leadership. I know her very well. By the time we were talking about that election, that's the time we sent her in Africa. She was working as a humanitarian. So I know her story. When we met in the hotel, I come across, she was with her bodyguards, and then we were working at the Asian community. The room was, there was about 1,000 and over. Then I came across and then I said, I know you. She was with her bodyguard, and then I just came by and said, I know you. What about my people? Where's my people? Here I'm seeing all Asian here, but no one with my people here. What about my people? When are you going to meet with my people? She stopped. And then I said, I know you took Mandela to the Gandhi. Then she stopped. She puts out her bodyguard, and then she looking at me. I said, I know you. Then she put over the chief of staff, the company staff. Then I went with the chief of staff. I said, now I will tell you this story. I know what I want. What I want, I need an appointment. And I came here after I just received the email. I think it was an email open to the public, but I didn't know that it was an email open for the agent. I'm sorry, but I just want to have an appointment. So he handed me over the business card and took my contact, and I gave him my contact. After that, we started corresponding. He will send me back to the director in Calgary. When we go, we can follow up with the director in Calgary. We went there. I picked up a couple of my friends from the African and some from the Caribbean as well. So we walked out. I said, this is what happened in my community. There's a lot of issues. We have too many complaints from women talking about forestal house. I don't know what it is, but some people know better than me. Some we have some complaints that kids are taken away from their moms, and there's a lot of discussion. We went on for discussion. And finally, they sent the report to Premier Alison. She agrees to meet with us and to respond to our concern. She appointed 4 ministers to have a consultation, one-on-one, until the 4 ministers, once they finish the consultation, that's the time she will come with the rest of the cabinet with the black community in Canada. So we just had a confirmation last week. The Minister of Justice of Alberta, Jonathan Dennis, is coming on March the 8th in Calgary to meet with us after the serious discussion we had. So his message was clear to the black community. What is your concern most affecting you in the justice area? Because now he's the Minister of Justice. They're going to send out the Minister of Immigration and Employment, and then followed by the Minister of Education. Once that, then the Premier will come with the rest of the minister and then she will meet with us. So we expect the Ministry, ECC, to get our community. Please come forward. I don't know what's going on among all our communities. Some people may know. When we sit down together, we evaluate our own situation, and then we say, this is what we have, this is what we will send to the Minister of Office. I just came here to let you know that there's an announcement the Minister is coming. So I may need you to come forward, let's get together and send the report into the Minister and let them do it for you. So I will hope to see you on, I think, on Thursday, the 28th. The meeting is going to be at ECC for the black community leaders and members to get their own concern together and to put it for the minister. I just came here to make an announcement for you. Thank you very much. And I enjoy the black history out there and making sure that our kids are at school, and that's the most important for us. And hopefully next year again we continue to celebrate.